We live.
A generation of generation Cowboys and sports talk. My dad, my partner, my co-host, Cowboy Joe 64.
I am your father.
Just to get the Cowboys two good games to hopefully understand that they need to go receiver and go high with this next pick.
Yeah, yeah, that's really what this is gonna be about. All right, you're looking live at Generation to Generation Cowboys and Sports Talks. I'm the host, DJ. I tell you what, joined with my co-host, my dad, Cowboy Joe 64, and we are back with another one. Uh, we're back with another one. The green screen already went out, so
Yeah.
go ahead and restart and see if we can get that fixed.
All right.
Yeah. So anyway, we back with another one. We're gonna do our Sunday fun day. We're gonna talk about a few things today. Of course, you got Turpin that was in the news. Turpin just you know, the story about Turpin is he had a little issue, a little blunder with the police, with the laws. I thank goodness he wasn't intoxicated or anything when he was driving. Looks like it's just gonna be something that's gonna be reduced down to nothing. So it's bad news, but it's good news as well. At least he wasn't doing something crazy, or at least he wasn't uh you know doing something crazy. At least he wasn't under the influence of anything, and you know sound like it's just a little error or mistake that he was going through. So we'll talk about that in a little bit more of the Cowboys history as far as players getting in trouble and stuff. And I named the title "Bad Boys" because I just felt like everybody. I'm so glad that the team is away from the Jason Garrett good boys, and we have our team has some flavor now. Got a lot of different personalities. These guys is saying they the real deal. So that's my take on that. You want to say what's up to everybody and kind of let them know what we're gonna be talking about besides Turk?
So appreciate you guys joining. Count on a late Sunday night, and we just decided to jump on. We had some breaking news, and we also had the tragedy down in Central Texas with the flooding. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Thoughts and prayers to all our people. And if you guys been watching our show, you know that we are Texas guys, born and raised, family for the most part, all over Texas. My grandparents, they were from Central Texas, and then on my dad's side, our folks, primarily Houston area. But so we really identify with the Central Texas fam, and just kind of really hate to see what's happening down there. I was just watching some of the videos. It's pretty amazing how the storm just came up, and one of the stories is it hit the camp where the kids were, and we can relate to that because growing up, you went to a lot of different camps over the years, and kids across America. And we talked about the other day the one that you went to. We went up and we were in the Ozark Mountains up in Arkansas, and it was really a campground that we were at. And so that campground that we were at in Arkansas is probably the kind of camp they were at. It was just cabins, and probably doesn't take a whole lot for it to, you know, the
Yeah,
water coming through to knock it down.
yeah, man. They said that it was that the water raised up between 26 feet in about 45 minutes, man. And you know, at the time that it actually flooded, those kids were asleep, man. And so that's pretty, that's really sad. And so, hopefully the YouTube algorithm picks this up and we can get everybody to donate to them and to donate to their cause and help them out because this was how many people have passed away so far? It's oh my goodness! It said the death toll in Central Texas climbed to at least 70 as of
It's
midday today.
Yeah, it's been different numbers reported. I actually saw something where it was 90 something, but so they don't. It's kind of one of those things where they probably not going to really know until they evaluate and kind of look at everything. But yeah, it's pretty devastating, and so we have to just kind of pray that we can kind of get some of the people, that need help, the help they need, and then we'll just kind of recover here down in Central Texas, but a lot of the towns they were naming, very familiar with them. And then, of course, you lived in Austin and went to school there for 3 years, so you real familiar with the area down that way.
Is this actually is this what is this real?
I don't know if that's one of the videos, and the one I saw today, it was it was from there. I don't know. I can't really see your screen as good, but that's what the ones look like that I saw.
We got to check on B Bird too to see because he's down there in southern Texas. They got hit pretty hard too with the rain. I mean, when I was looking on the radar at the storms, well, as it was going on, I had never seen nothing like that on the radar.
Yeah. Now I think B Bird, he's down by Houston,
He is, but
if I'm
they
not
was,
mistaken.
but that's why I was saying he's down by Houston, like in Galveston area. Well, that's where he's from. But he said, when I was looking, that's what I was saying. When I was looking at the radar, South Houston, all Central Texas, all the way up to Dallas, it was just like I had never seen the radar look like
Mm,
that. Like it was like how like the radar be green,
yeah.
or orange and red. It was just like all of Central Texas was red and orange, like Austin, San Antonio, all of the states. I mean, all of the cities that they named, South Houston, and the way that the storm was coming down. The storm was like coming down from the north, so it was coming down. So it was traveling like southeast, but it was just like circling right there where Central Texas is, and so it was just like it was a constant. If it was coming down and circling back up to us in Dallas, but it was but that was a constant in Central Texas. It was a constant. It never stopped. So it was just like for like 16 hours when I was watching it on the radar. So this is the result.
Yeah, and you can tell even in the Metroplex where we are in Dallas. I mean, we've never had a 4th of July that I can remember where, the weather was like in the low 80s, just overcast, and it actually rained a little bit. So we've never seen that before. So that's
I was
kind of,
barbecuing and I had to move the grill. You know what I'm saying? Because I was barbecuing and it just started pouring down raining.
yeah. So that's unusual for the 4th of July. So,
Yeah, it is
but
very,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. So we got Nana on with us, and of course Central Texas and Seguin, which is where our folks are from.
Yeah, shout out to Nana. Yeah, areas of San
Mm-hmm.
Antonio, Seguin. Yeah, it's really, man,
Mm-hmm.
this is really something that we want to send prayers up for. We want to, push awareness for this because this was definitely a tragedy. Uh, we know, I know we've had some people that were actually at that camp last year that we actually know personally that were actually at that camp last year. So,
Yeah, Pastor Carter's daughter worked there last summer.
yeah, Kayla.
Um,
So
yeah.
this definitely hit home. I mean, and so really this is what compelled us to do the show today. We do talk about Cowboys and sports talk, but we also, like my dad said, we're also active in our community, in the Dallas community, and the surrounding community. So, we're Texas guys. So when something like this hits home, we want to at least speak our piece on it and try to bring awareness to it, on the channel. So prayers sent up to everybody in those areas and to everybody that was at that camp and everybody that was in, what is the actual city called?
So I know I heard Kerrville was
Yeah,
one of them,
yeah, that's the main one. That's where
and
the camp was.
so a lot of times when they do it, they just name the counties. So
Mm.
we kind of familiar with the counties, but I think it was just more like Central Texas. I don't know where the camp was.
I think that was Kirby, if I'm not mistaken.
Now the camp was right off the Guadalupe River or
Mm.
close to it. So yeah.
So yeah, shout out, prayers sent up, and everybody's in our prayers. And like I said, y'all try to share as much this video as much as you can, so that way that the YouTube can pick up the algorithm, and everybody that's watching this can get the message to send prayers up and donate if they need to, or if wherever they can, and just the death toll is up to 82. 22 minutes ago from AP News. So
Mm.
that is drastic from what it was yesterday. Because yesterday we was talking like 28, 32, and now they're saying it's like 90 and 82. That's
Yeah, so what I saw, just homes and cars were being, just carried away by the water, and a lot of the water, the brush and the mud is pretty dangerous. I know one couple I saw, they were standing up on something, and it was another family. They were in a car, and they were telling them to get out of the car, but car got washed away. So, but yeah, it's pretty devastating. So our prayers go out to all of our Central Texas family, and then of course our other breaking news, which is no, nothing compared to what we just talked about, and I think to me, it's going to end up being a nothing burger. Was Kavonte Turpin getting arrested for having a gun in his car, and then the marijuana thing, which again, and you'll talk about this, which we're in 2025, not even really sure why we're still talking about this, and you know, and another, the guys in the NFL, they're still having to deal with this, which really speaks to how poor their union is in the NBA and the, Major League Baseball, even in hockey. This wouldn't even be an issue, but in the NFL, for some reason, it's still an issue. D. Marie Smith, he's the worst um, union head in the history of sports. I don't know how he still has a job. But these players, and I want to talk about Micah's contract a little bit later as it relates to this. Talking about the guaranteed contract, because what we're hearing now, one of the holdups might be the guarantee, and then there is some discussion that his agent is pushing for the entire thing to be guaranteed,
I'm just, why,
which
why
is
wouldn't he?
which is breaking new ground, and that may just be kind of, but that's just one of the things they're talking about. But with Cavante, like you said earlier, the good thing is the good news. He wasn't speeding. No one else's life was in danger. Is that what the story is?
Yep.
And so that's the good news. He wasn't driving drunk.
Mm-mm.
So he just got your random pullover, which what happens.
Possession of
And
marijuana less than 2 ounces, so that's not nothing.
now where I'm going with this, if he was a Kansas City Chief, if he was a Green Bay Packer, this would be a nothing burger. Nothing would happen. But because he's a Dallas Cowboy, it's going to be national news. And what we've seen, some kind of way, when you're a Cowboy, they try to do the suspension thing. And, and strangely enough, Jerry is just kind of just watching this happen what he did with Zeke. So I know we ain't finna get into this suspension talk because this should not be one of those kind of deals.
Well, what it would end up happening, what they'll say is they'll bring up the fact that he has, the possession of marijuana. And so what the NFL does is they try to sugarcoat it by saying that they don't do random drug tests in the NFL. They let you know like ahead of time, like a year in advance, every day that you have to test. Like they let you know every day that you have to test. And so, but if you fail that test, even though they've let you know, that's when they bring in the suspension. Like, like Randy Gregory, he would know, like, like a month in advance that he has a test on this day and he would still fail.
Now, now I may be wrong. I thought they had actually in this last agreement that they had actually did away with that part of it. Maybe
Maybe I'm not caught up on it. I can look it up real quick. So what would I be typing in? That NFL marijuana
I
laws.
don't know, but I thought that this last agreement they had, which was still a terrible agreement,
Mhm.
that they were not going to be suspending
Yeah, it
players
says that.
for.
It says suspension for positive tests were eliminated. Instead, players can now face fines or suspensions for refusing treatment or missing tests.
Okay.
Testing windows are also shortened, and the threshold for a positive test was raised substantially.
So again, I'm thinking that in the final the analysis is that this is going to be something that nothing's going to happen.
Yeah,
Obviously he needs to go out and get his gun permit if that's what
yeah, license to carry.
license to carry or whatever the case may be, and then a commentary on this. A lot, probably your generation. is more up to date on this. I'm still not understanding why NFL players, if you're in the league, why you're riding around with that versus just if you're using it, just having it brought to your house or whatever the case may be, why you're riding around in a car with it. But that's a whole nother thing. Um, it's just, and the reason you don't is because when you get pulled over, you know what's going to happen. So why ride around with it in your car? What's the whole purpose of having it in your car?
It's just because for one you going from you getting it from it's a social thing. Number one, it's not just something that you do at home, it's something that you socialize with. So for instance, it's also like bringing an offering to someone in our culture. It's just like, if I go over my cousin's house, or if I go over my friend's house, if I'm going to see a lady friend or whatever, and they indulge in it, and I indulge in it, then I would bring it to them, and we would indulge in it together. If that's what you do. It's just like a drink. It's just like going to the liquor store and then going to someone's house. The only thing about a liquor store is you can't have an open container in your car. You have to put it in your trunk. Well, this is essentially the same thing. It's just, well, if you go over someone's house and you take a bottle, this is the same thing as that. You go somewhere and you take it with you. Also, if you're going somewhere, and some people indulge in it more than others. So if you're going somewhere where you want to indulge in it while you're there, it's going to be in your car. This is not something that's exclusively for at home. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? This is not that. And so the laws are laxed on it too. So it makes you more eager and more okay to ride around with it than you used to be, because it's not you know it's not like
Well,
whatever. You know what I mean? So
yeah. So
yeah.
I think the general idea, especially if you're a player in the league and you're a cowboy, just keep it on the low. Just do stuff to where you can't. Some of these guys, you get pulled over, you just can't. You can't really even
You
put
know,
put that in the picture.
my whole thing is, if you're an athlete and you got millions of dollars on the line, and you
Oh,
have,
that was my other point I was gonna make before I
yeah,
forget.
yeah,
My
yeah,
point is too, when you got millions of dollars,
yeah.
then you're not even actually driving, and you ain't even got to make a whole lot of money to Uber around. But I mean, I guess it's gonna all come out the same way.
If I was a millionaire like that, I was making $1 million, I was an athlete, I wouldn't be indulging in it. Number one, and like, well, money has nothing to do with it, but at the same time, I definitely wouldn't be doing anything illegal to where some random police officer can make a case out of nothing
Yeah.
because of this. I would not do anything like that. As a matter of fact, it's cliche to say, but if I had the type of money that the NFL players have, I would have, if I had to have that, which is mind-boggling to me if they did. But if they had to have it, I would do like you said. Somebody would be responsible for it, not me. You know,
You
and
know,
they
it,
would be paid to do that. Just like I would have a driver. Just like, if there would be no circumstance where I would be driving.
driving drunk.
No, I would just have someone that's paid to do that. Like, you're my, now you can be, you don't even have to be my chauffeur. You can just be someone that'll just my accountability partner, to where, I'm the breadwinner. I can't go to jail for DWI because my career might be over. You know what I mean?
Well,
So
and then even your average layperson these days, you have Uber,
you got
so
Uber.
you ain't even got to have a whole lot of money. Now, a lot of these guys, just to be keeping it a buck, they don't make a lot of money,
Oh, that's true.
so they can Uber.
They can
And
Uber.
Kavonte Turpin is one of them, by the way. He makes a lot of money compared to what the average person makes. But
And he just got a lot of money.
yeah, so yeah, he could just, hey man,
But
just
on the scale of being in trouble, should just be a wake up call for him, because this could have been a lot worse, and we've seen
yeah.
this same situation be a lot worse for other
But
players.
but what we not gonna, well, I say what the
Yeah,
Cowboys should not be put up with. It ain't nowhere in the world the NFL should be trying to come back and suspend him and all this kind of crap. We not, ain't no way that should be happening.
nah, they shouldn't be doing that, and the Cowboys shouldn't allow them to do that, because that's just. But that's another thing I would want to talk about too. Some things you just be like, oh, is the NFL biased, or oh, is the NBA biased towards certain players or people or whatever like that, and it's always like hidden up under the rug. But with the Cowboys, they openly be biased, and it don't be no question about it. Like this is biased. Like for instance, like these last few years where it's just like, dude, Micah and Tank, they're getting held. We can see this. These are holding calls, and these are not like your average. Like, yeah, every team has about 10 holding calls that they let go. This ain't that. This is like no, every other play he is being hog tied, wrapped around his neck, and the the official will just be standing right there looking at him like, if he doesn't do that, you're gonna sack the player every time, so we can't call it. So it's just like they do those type of things, like the Dez catch. It's clearly a catch. No one with eyes can tell you that it wasn't. Just like the thing that when they drop the paper down on the first down, like you gonna measure the first down with a paper with some paper. It's just like what are we doing here? And it's just like they do this all the time. They be getting held. Michael be getting held on every play. They don't ever call it. How does Zeke get suspended for all those games when there was no criminal complaint filed? Even the person that filed the charges said that they were just making it up and all this kind of stuff. And then, he still gets suspended. There was no
Yeah.
cause for him to be suspended whatsoever. And they just did that and nobody says nothing. They just continue to go on.
The
You
Zeke
know,
thing was really strange when when it was happening in real time, and then after that, there were some other players in the league that had some similar situations,
nothing happened to him.
and they were not suspended. What's up, B Bird? We were talking about you earlier. Good to see you.
Hmm.
But yeah, man, it's kind of so. Again, we don't need the local media to just take off, and we call it the dead period, which is we coming out of the clouds now with this in the next week or so. But this shouldn't be like a 3 or 4 day story with this with Turpin,
Yeah,
and
man.
hopefully he can just kind of weather the storm, make better decisions, and just kind of come in and hit the ground running, have a great season, and
And
we
this
ain't
is
we ain't trying to
like yeah, and like you said, this is the dead period. So of course you're gonna have, people gonna, you're gonna have. This is a story. This had to be breaking news because ain't
slow
nothing
slow
going on.
news day. Well, it's not
Yeah,
a slow news day in Texas, but
right. But in the in the athletes, in the sports world, you ain't got nothing on. Basketball is over. You know, the Rangers lost yesterday or a couple days ago. So it's just like ain't
so they ended
nobody.
up losing the game we was watching the other night.
They did.
So what place are they in now? I really haven't been keeping up.
I haven't either because I've just, I haven't either because they every time that I try to, indulge like I did last
Well,
week, they get
they had
hurt.
won like three in a row,
They
and
did.
then but the year they won the World Series, this is how the season was going. They didn't start playing good until the end.
Well, well, nah, they was playing good at the beginning, and then they kind of fell off, and then it was
Mm,
just like, okay, the only way that they're gonna make the playoffs, they got to win like 8 out of the next 10, and they won the 8 out of the next 10.
yeah.
And then when we got to Houston, once they beat Houston, really that was like the World Series to me when they beat Houston. When they beat Houston, I was just like, ah, yeah, no, I don't care what happened now. But them beating Houston just let me know in my mind they can beat anybody. Cause that's like getting over the hump, like with the 49ers or with the Green Bay or
Hmm.
something, or like the Pistons with the Bulls. You know what I'm saying? It's just like that's getting over the hump. So when they did that,
Well,
I knew it was on.
what we have now with the 49ers.
Yeah, and what's so sad about that with the 49ers is in my humble opinion is the 49ers are not going to be back on that pedestal again. Like it's
Mm,
it's it's going to turn into somebody else because we're not going to get our get back on the 49ers cuz they're not going to be
man,
in a position to
I
compete.
put I'm pushing back on that
I
because
know, but I don't
they
see it.
still have good players and they draft well and they do free agency.
Nah.
So they don't underestimate them because they ain't that far. They all they got to do is just have a couple of good drafts and they gonna do free agency.
Well,
And
yeah, they can have a couple of good drafts, but what they got to worry about is that the other team's going to have a couple of good drafts too. So, like
see
Brock
they
Purdy, they gave Brock Purdy all that money. I don't know if I would have did that, but I mean, I would have did it, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm, just super excited about their quarterback situation like they
And
are. You know what I'm
but
saying?
and see, then I look at their division. The Arizona team, they not getting better. They coach. They hired a goofy coach. Seattle, I think they ain't really the same organization to me without Pete Carroll. So I think that their division is kind of like people were talking about the NFC East a couple years back. I just don't think their division is good. So we'll see. We'll see
Well,
how it
see,
plays out. But I
this is
want
my
to.
thing too. This is
We
my
don't
thing
play them
too.
this year, do we?
I don't think so. But see, that's my thing too. That plays into why I'm thinking like I'm thinking. Their division ain't that good. So by the time that they get to the playoffs and they didn't play their division, they done had 7 games in their division where they're not playing good teams. That's half the season. They don't get in the
Yeah.
playoffs, probably wild card in there. They got to go up against a heavy hitter like we do. You know what I mean? We be playing these whack teams all year, and then we be beating them down, and we be beating our division teams, and we act like that's such a big deal, but they really just not like top tier competition, except the
Yeah.
Eagles. You know what I'm saying? And then we get to the playoffs and then we can't win a second game
Oh,
because the level of competition with the coaches and the players
um,
gets harder and harder.
now, our other team we got to add to the list that we have been able to beat, and we do play them, is
Green
Green
Bay.
Bay. We
So
play
Green
them in the fifth game.
Yeah, so let's talk about Green Bay. Let's give a little history on Green Bay because we was, you know, uh Bieber said they didn't get any rain down there at all. Well, it was going hard in Texas. It was going hard in Central and up here. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So, uh, let's see now. Green Bay. Let's talk about Green Bay for a minute. So, what brings Green Bay to that level of rivalry for you?
For me, um, well, they was a rivalry in the '90s. I attended a lot of those games, so they were always kind of there. And then for me, what brings it back is the 2014 Dez game and the 2016 games that we lost here at home. Now, my Cowboy fandom, we talk about I'm third generation and you're fourth generation.
Mhm.
Man, the hardest losses for me over my lifetime was the Super Bowl losses to the Steelers. Um,
What's up, Big
those,
Tim?
hey, big time. I listened to your show earlier.
I did
Great
too.
show. So the Steelers losses in the '70s, those stayed with me forever. The 49ers lost the catch at Candlestick, so that brought that team into the forefront. Then we lost to them. They prevented us from three-peating. That was just a hard loss. And then you got your Green Bay losses, the 2014 and the 2016, which you saw in real time. Those are you were there for all of that. So just think about that Green Bay loss, the 2014, the Dez game, how you felt. The 2016 game to me was worse. That was our year. The one we lost to Green Bay at home when we were the number one seed.
Yeah, Byron
When they,
Jones.
when that
Yeah.
when Aaron Rodgers threw that third and 27. So that's my answer.
Well, I
And to
say,
me, and I'm going to cut you out before you go further. We haven't had those kind of losses to the Eagles.
nah, nah, no. With the Eagles, I mean, like I said, pretty people with the Eagles, they just got good. These
Yeah,
last couple of 4 or 5 years, and we still been competing with them. It's not like they just did anything. They ain't been they haven't done us like that. But that of course that Tony Romo game still is 49ers, Eagle, Washington, and Houston, one of my biggest rivalries. Okay, appreciate it. I didn't y'all take on turn. Yeah, yeah, we talked about Turp, and we kind of, to sum it up on a quick note, we just really said, it's just we just thankful that he wasn't, drunk or under the influence of anything, and
wasn't
this should
speeding.
he wasn't speeding. This should just be a wake up call for him. And then my dad was saying that, he hopes that the NFL doesn't just turn this into like a suspension type of deal because they do that with the bias takes that they have on the Cowboys. We was talking about how they did Zeke back in the day, and when that was just horrible. And then so we just want to make sure that being that it's a dead period, that they don't try to drag this out and they don't try to make it seem like Turpin is this bad
Yeah.
guy and try to do that, you know.
And what I
So
said, big time. If he was a Green Bay Packer, if he was a Buccaneer, it would be a nothing burger. It wouldn't even. It would be like a 2 day story tops. But since he's a Cowboy, they gonna
mhm.
try to drag it out and
Now,
make it something bigger than it is.
now be me in fourth generation. I have the 49ers. I have the Eagles. I have Washington
Why do you have the Eagles?
as a rivalry.
Yeah.
I just don't
Well,
like. I
just
just
because it's the division, but you
you
haven't had, like I said, you haven't experienced the kind of defeats that we had with the 49ers and Packers and
no. Well, with the Steelers either. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But
same, yeah.
well, I have with the 49ers, I have with the Packers, but the Eagles, it's really it's their fan base and the Saints. It's their fan base. I
Oh, the
don't like the
Saints is
Saints.
an underrated rivalry.
Yeah. So uh Allen, Texas is not a good place for people that look like us. No, I understand.
He been in Allen.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out you.
We got to
Nah.
figure out this. Yeah.
Yeah, we got to figure out that story. We got to hit you up on that one. Uh, so yeah, the 49ers, they have the heartbreaking losses for me. Green Bay, that Dez catch, I promise you, really, my health was in question that day. I'm telling you, something happened.
That catch, that game, I watched it at Uncle Earl's with all your uncles, and you was just like home alone on that game. You know, you kind of like watching games by yourself. You watched that
Yeah,
game at your apartment.
I did. I can't really, my like my great grandmother.
Let me
Not
say
my
this. Let me say this. When Dez caught that pass, I immediately knew it was gonna be ruled a no catch.
Oh man, listen.
Did you think that?
Can't watch the reruns of the cat. Nah, I haven't watched. I haven't rewatched that game since. No, I honestly thought that he caught the ball and that was it.
I know when the play happened, I said it wasn't a catch in real time. I mean, well, let me say this: I knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, because I mean, I like I said, I like to watch the games by myself a lot of times. There's only a few people I can watch the game with. My dad, my sister, my cousins, but I got to be by myself most of the time because my feelings are involved too much. My nerve, my anxiety. I have to be, locked in, and I really have to have something else going on too. Cause it's kind of like me. It's like when I study for class, I got to have something on. I got to have Game of Thrones on or something like that. And I like to watch it on my laptop. I like to watch the game on my laptop for some reason to where I can just stand up and walk around and all this kind of stuff. But it's just man, that game, I was sitting on the edge of my couch when that game, when that catch happened. I started hyperventilating when they turned it around. When they turned it over and started, I really, really, really was, I really was hurt. You know what
I
I
wasn't
mean? Like
surprised.
I was like, my how like something like have tingling all over your body, everything was tingling. It was just like I couldn't believe this. It was just like I said, I was having an out of body experience, and then it was just like about your great grandma. I was gonna say like so like I was gonna say like Mama, she used to watch these like we used to be at Mama's house watching the games, but she would not watch the game because her heart, she would be too emotionally involved in the game. So she would
Your
just
mom is the same way.
yeah, so they would just like Mama, she would kind of like just come out and peek and ask us what's the score, and then she'd go back in her room and trying to chill and watch something else. And then when everybody in the room jump up and say something, she come in there and she peek because she was just too she want them to win so bad.
Yeah.
She was just emotionally involved, and so that's kind of how I am when it comes to the Cowboys. It's just like I be so emotionally involved that it's just like my phone needs my phone is off probably. Uh, you know I don't miss games. If we not, if the
Well,
game is at 12, we go
so
into the early service in church. We
now
not missing no game.
since Monica is on, when Texas played Arizona State,
Yeah.
you stayed there and watched the whole thing. I did the going outside thing
Well, you did the
during
going
that game.
outside
Yeah,
thing to that.
I do that during Mavericks when the Mavericks was playing
Yeah,
in
you
the
do that in the Maverick. You did that you did that with the Rangers too on the last game.
yeah, oh yeah, I didn't watch none of the Rangers entire game when they won the World Series. I couldn't watch it. I had to just
I couldn't watch Detroit a couple years ago when when we took it down to the wire and they were doing the second point 2 point conversion and all of that.
We had a house full of people. You were
Ah,
you
yeah,
were here. You were
yeah. I had to
sitting
go
right there
outside.
though.
Yeah, I had to go outside in the back. When all of that was going on at the end.
So I
Yeah.
want to go back to B Bird and Big Time because they OGs. So I watched a lot of the '90s games on YouTube during this dead period. But B Bird and Big Time, I went and watched the '82 championship game at Candlestick, the catch game. I watched the entire game on YouTube a couple of weeks ago, and a couple of things about that game that I really had forgotten. So going into the fourth quarter on that last drive, the Cowboys was up by 4. They really were dominating. They had they came a couple of plays away from like getting up enough to where the game probably would have been over. So they were up by 4, and the defense let them drive 80 yards, and they had several chances to stop them, and they didn't, and the game would be over. And then the other thing that happened, Cowboys got the ball back. They drove to like the 40-yard line, and Danny White hit Drew over the middle. It's a touchdown, but he got horse collared. It would have been a penalty in the modern game
Mm,
if not for that horse collar. And he barely got him. Drew would have scored, and they would have won.
man,
So
you
now I
know,
was a senior when that happened, so I felt the same way. I was a senior in high school that you did after the Green Bay game, but
my
now
first ever heartbreak game was the Tony Romo fumble. That was my first heartbreak
Tony,
game
oh, the
ever.
Seattle game, yeah,
Yeah, that was my first heartbreak game ever when I just felt like that was the first time that I feel like, how
as a real
everybody,
fan.
yeah, 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 how everybody say what can go wrong will go wrong. That was my
Mm,
first time ever feeling like, I was just lost in the world. Like how could
yeah,
this happen to us? And then the game with the Green Bay. So the Green Bay, they on the list because, but it'd be like, beating these teams to me in the regular season don't be really meaning nothing. I want to get my league back in the playoffs. I want to put them out their misery like they put us out ours. I want it to have the same effect. Like when we play, I want to play Green Bay in the first game. And so we could put them out. You know what I mean?
mm,
Because because that's how they did us. 2016, that Byron Jones play, that catch, it was no way that he was gonna make that catch on 3rd and 27. And it was only one thing that could happen in order for that pass to be complete. And it happened.
mm. So
So
B Bird, the Jackie Smith Super Bowl game, yeah, that was another one. It was that I still right to this day, Super Bowl 13 is the best one ever played. And we it was a lot of stuff that happened in that game. It was kind of one of those games you talking about, Jules, where it was the ref was doing a lot of weird stuff. It was a couple of big plays in that game that were really questionable. But but yeah, it was that Jackie Smith catch. And he was a so Jackie Smith, he was a guy that he played his entire career for the Cardinals. He was an old man. He was probably 37, 38 years old,
mm,
and the Cardinals were a losing team, so the Cowboys signed him like mid-season.
mhm,
So he finally makes it to a winning team, and in the biggest game of his life, he's wide open and he drops the ball. He had probably been in the NFL like 15 years. Just a devastating story. He was wide open, and then Roger blamed himself because he was so open. Roger, threw it a fastball, and Roger was like he should have just, kind of laid it in there, but
mm.
yeah, yeah, that was a tough one. That
Yeah.
was I told you the story. We had a TV that was kept going in and out,
Oh yeah, you talking
and then
about
that was a game.
when he
That was
came back on, he had already dropped the ball.
well, no, one of the plays they sacked Bradshaw, and then the TV went off, and when it came back on,
Oh
the
yeah.
Cowboys scored a touchdown. They stripped the ball,
Right.
but
Yeah, that's what you were saying. So I'm looking at this right here, and we're gonna go back on some. We're gonna do continue to do our we're gonna go back and talk about some more cowboy times because everybody likes that because everybody has their moments. So I'm looking at this website and it says 2025 Dallas Cowboys major offseason moves. So I just want everybody to think about where you were thinking at this time when the Cowboys were doing these things. What type of off season did you think we were gonna have when this stuff was going on? So the first one is Osa. So Osa signing, and they got Kavonte Turpin that they signed, and brought in Solomon Thomas, Javonte Williams, Rob Jones, Peyton Turner, Kyer Elam, Jack Sanborn, Kenneth Murray, Miles Sanders, Dante Fowler, Paris Campbell, Joe Milton, Draft Tyler Booker, Donovan Izaraku, Siobhan Ravel, Jaden Blue, Shamar James, Ajanai, Cornelius, Jay Toye, Phil Maffa, Tommy Akbensot, and George Pickens. So, what do you think about that? That sounds like a hell of an offseason to me. Well,
Yeah,
I'll say different than any other offseason that we've been a part of her recently.
they had a good off season, and like Cowboy fans, we know they're not done. They're still two moves away, and we was talking about the Eagles earlier. I
Yeah.
just don't. I don't fear the Eagles. I think we just a couple of players away from being even with them. I think we can beat Washington straight up, and with
I don't know
just the
why you
guys
don't feel
we
like that about Philadelphia. I don't know what have they shown, what have they done to where we can't. I mean, we're equal with them just about every year.
I,
I mean,
I I think we could split with them for sure, but
yeah.
I'm just saying, do I think we as good as they are? I don't think we're all the way there, but it's just a couple of players. But I don't fear them. I think we can win up there in September if I think we can. But
And then,
you know,
like I said, those games to me is such a toss up that it really doesn't really, you have to me, we need to win when the stakes are the best, when the stakes
yeah,
are the most, because we can beat Philadelphia in the season. It's not a big deal. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
If we split with them, so what? It just gives us the confidence to know that we can beat them, I guess. But when it when it counts is in the playoffs because that's where
it
we
does.
fail at.
It does, but you got to play the regular season. But I want to get your comments, and we touched on it earlier. And B Bird and everyone that's listening, big time too. What do you think about the rumor that Micah is trying to get more guarantee, or he wants the entire contract guarantee? When I was talking about that earlier, you had a comment on it.
Well, I think that he deserves it. I think that the Cowboys, that the new NFL, the NFL, they need to come on with the times. Just like how they have the most dangerous sport, but they don't have the guaranteed monies. Every play is like a car accident. And so these players are out there sacrificing their bodies for the enjoyment, and they don't even get the full guaranteed contracts, or it's just not like a a broad thing, you know what I mean? But in the NBA, they getting paid bukus and bread. In the MLB, they getting paid tons of money. And in the NHL, they getting paid lots of money. And then, ain't nobody talking about no, or we guarantee him this kind of it's just like, come on, man. So I think that Micah is one of those people that's he's one of those guys that's page turning. He's turning the page. Uh he's opening up a lot of things for the NFL. Like Bieber said, moving on from Martin and Lawrence
He's
was
talking about the off season, which I,
yeah.
I I agree. I think
Yeah,
it was time for definitely for Zach Martin and Tank.
we was
He's
talking
kind of
about that because I was talking about remnants of the past errors, and so when they're doing stuff like that, that was huge for me too. And do I think that he will be suspended by the NFL? I don't think so,
I think
but
we
it
said
was
that they stopped suspending players for that. So shout
yeah,
out to Uncle Charles and
yeah.
Studwood Cowboy. Appreciate
Studi
you
Wood,
joining the show. Is that
Studi,
Studwood? That's how you
yeah.
pronounce it? But
Hmm.
yeah, I think that we don't think he's gonna be suspended. We think I think it's a nothing burger. So we're gonna see. But as we said, the NFL, they're kind of biased against Dallas players. So big time show. We talking about the contract. So we heard kind of discussion that Micah is one wanting more guaranteed money. So uh, Miles Garrett got 123 million guaranteed. So I think where this thing is going to fall, I don't think they're going to guarantee the entire thing. I think what's going to end up happening, he's just going to get a bigger guarantee probably than anybody's ever gotten. So if Miles Garrett got 123 guaranteed, Michael could get 140 or 145, and that'll be the way the deal gets done. I don't think they're gonna guarantee 200 million.
Nah,
That would be a game changer, and it should happen.
it should happen. Now, my
Yeah,
take on that is, I think, like I said, Micah is turning is one of those guys that he's breaking ground in the NFL. With a podcast thing, No, no team, no players was doing podcasts. Michael was the first to do that. Everybody was talking down on him, and now all of the players have podcasts. So he was the first to do that. You know what I mean? So I think that he should be the first player to get that high, that first defensive player, non quarterback to get that high of a contract where it should be all guaranteed. Now, um, I think it'll get done, but I think it's gonna be like you said. I think it's just gonna be more guaranteed than anybody else. But
Hmm.
the NFL needs to just come on with it and stop, doing these type of things to where they can't guarantee these players these type of money.
Yeah, that goes back to the president of the NFL Players Association. They when his contract is up, there's just no way they can keep him as the head of the NFLPA. He it's just absolutely no way. They have the
Studio Wood
worst union. He's
Studio
talking
Wood
about
says,
the
yeah.
H
How about
Town.
the Astros? Let me tell you, man. The Astros. I don't have any rivalries in Major League Baseball except the Astros. That is it. That's the only people I don't want to see. That I be wanting the Rangers to win every. I don't like the Astros. And then so yeah. But back to the topic. Yeah, the Cowboys, man, and this guaranteed money. You know, Micah, and also this is what I want to say. His agent is Darth Vader. He got the best agent in the game, no question. And
Yeah,
so you don't have to worry about uh
he's putting a chokehold on Jerry and them right now.
oh yeah, and then he young, he from here. uh no, uh my guy is not budging. It's just like,
Yeah.
whatever they're asking for, they should be able to get.
Now is he George Pickens' agent too? Did I hear that?
I'm finna see.
Yeah. But yeah, I think he's one of the best. So that the agency that he's with, so Todd France is a part of that agency as well. So yeah, they're gonna be in the game for a long time. They just getting started. So they may be the agency that breaks through and gets entire contracts guaranteed. It's about time for that. So we'll see. So Studiowood Cowboy. So we're Texas guys. So myself, pretty much I pull for all of the Texas teams if whatever the sport is. I was an Orioles fan too back in the day. Definitely a Houston Rockets, Five Slamma Jamma, all of that. So anytime a Texas team is in a playing like this last tournament, U of H, I was definitely pulling for them in the Final Four. Uh, the Astros, there's a rivalry with the Texas fans. So
Yeah,
my
and
general,
I'm the same way. Like
yeah,
I root for the all the Texas fans except the Astros, but and then
mm,
even the basketball, even the Rockets, I root for them except when they playing the Mavericks. Now when they
yeah.
playing the Dallas teams, I don't. But outside of that, like the Texans, that's my AFC team of choice if I had to choose one.
Then your Uncle Earl is a Astros fan for sure.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
and
you know,
he pulled for the Cowboys and the Rangers. So B Bird, I think myself, I just feel like the s- they shouldn't have to go on strike to get it. I just think it's going to be the players and the union head just having a strategy to do it. Now going on strike that may be actually called for, but I just
but
think
like
that
but like B Bird said, ain't nobody got the guts to do that.
well, I mean, they just have to have a better strategy to where they don't even get to that point. They just need to have better negotiators and players
You
that,
have to have the players that's making all the money. Those are the
yeah,
guys that have to make the way.
it's
Like
gonna have
Michael,
it's gonna have to be a Micah, a Patrick
Dak.
Mahomes. It could have been Tom Brady. Those are the players that will actually make it happen.
Right. And what I'm starting to see is that, the Cowboys players, they have those type of players. Like CD, he has that type of mentality.
You
Micah
know,
got that type of mentality. Trayvon Diggs got that type of mentality.
it'll have to be the quarterbacks, but there was some talk too before he signed his last contract. D. Maurice Smith, who's the head of NFLP, there was some talk about having Tom Brady be the head of the NFLPA.
Well, my
That would
only
have been
thing
a
about
smart
that,
move.
it would have been a smart move, but I've never seen nothing from Tom Brady to where he didn't give me the Micah vibe when it comes to that because he
Well,
was.
no, Tom Brady, he when they signed his last agreement, he
Hmm.
was saying a lot. He was out there campaigning for them to do something different. He was.
Oh, okay, see that's news to me. So they should have
Yeah.
done that
And he
because
was saying that this agreement they shouldn't have signed it.
oh
He
yeah.
also said they needed a new union head. So and back in the day,
Hmm.
before your time, or you know, Michael Irvin was doing it. Michael
Oh
they when they had a couple of agreements, Michael Irvin was like, "Ain't no way in the world we should sign this."
yeah, he's the number one person that I always think of when it comes to that because he be
Yeah.
on the loud horn saying that they shouldn't have
And
shot. So
then and back then the NFL union head was Gene Upshaw, who was a Hall of Fame player for the Raiders, and
mhm.
he kept selling the players out, and he was a player.
Mm.
So
Well,
they have a problem.
so when is the next actual negotiation period?
Well, he just signed a new agreement a couple of years ago, so he's probably got 2 more years left, or maybe even three. I don't know. We'd have to look it up, but he cannot be the NFL PA head again. Yeah, yeah, it won't happen now, B Bird for sure. And by the way, he shouldn't be calling games either, Tom Brady.
Nah, he
Uh,
wasn't good at that.
well, no, because he's an NFL owner. Uh, that he shouldn't be on a he. Well, what I should say is he signed a contract with the NFL to call the games. By him being an owner, he shouldn't been allowed to either do that or keep that contract.
Yeah,
They paying these broadcasters way too much money. That's a whole nother subject. I just
yeah.
to me, you could put Big Bird up in the booth on Sundays, and we're gonna watch the game. So these guys shouldn't be making all this money.
Don't even pay attention to what they be saying half the time, and
No,
then they be biased, and
yeah,
so you know what I'm
and
saying. It's like,
I
man,
done got to where I don't even like listening to Troy.
I'm gonna say the same thing. I'm gonna say Troy. I be like tuning him out, and I tune Romo out too.
Yeah,
Romo be getting on my nerves.
now Romo is better than Troy though.
Yeah, he's better at the job. But
Yeah,
my thing is just like how they be acting when it comes to the Cowboys. It's like you don't act like a cowboy. You know what I mean?
well,
Like
yeah,
you know
well they're
how
not supposed to. Yeah,
how like Michael well, like Troy, to me, Troy acts like a cowboy. You can
yeah,
tell that his feelings is involved with the game. You know what I mean? And like it's like, like Jimmy will get all the way out of character. You know what I'm
yeah, yeah.
saying? It's like
Jimmy has for sure.
you know what I'm saying? Michael Irvin, he gets all the way out of character.
Oh, yeah,
You
Mike,
know what I'm saying?
he ain't nobody like him.
Emmett recently has been getting all the way out of character. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Last
Yeah,
year on Radio Row, Emmett, because he's selling his alcohol too, but you can kind of tell he had been sipping it a little bit on their
Emmett has an
show.
alcohol.
I think so. Yeah, yeah, he do. He do. He was selling it on Radio Row. He was promoting it on Radio Row. It's
Well,
just
I know Troy has a beer.
yeah, the 7 thing. But oh no, was it the 8 calories or whatever it's called? But it's no, Emmett has one. He has an
Mm,
alcohol that he was trying to promote while on Radio Row, and you could tell he had been taking tester shots and everything because he was just letting it go. He was talking crazy. He was just
mm,
like, man, they was just, but he was telling it like it is, and you could tell that his heart and his feelings are involved. They feel that they are a part of the team. You know what I mean? Some of these players like Romo, he just left and it'd be like, but Romo kind of has a reason because they did Romo so bad.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
So that's what Troy does. What B Bird is saying. He just overcompensates. But yeah, it's. So I think like I said. So now, so we was talking about this earlier. So the how many more days we got before camp starts?
you got like 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, I
I'll
think
look
it's
it up.
July 27, 28. So we're
20
gonna
days. When does camp start? When does NFL camp start? Yeah,
yeah, B Bird is one of the great OGs in the content space. We did a show with him a few weeks back. We're gonna do another one with him. So we're gonna set that up with him. And then my new my fraternity brother, big time show. Glad to see you back. I saw your Lakers content the other day as well. So yeah, you um big time is one of the OGs too. So we really just kind of aligning with a lot of the content creators and trying to do something that you know just kind of falls in line with some of the other people. You got a lot of content creators out there. They just doing a lot of crazy stuff. So we're trying to just bring something unique with the father and son thing, and try to
Mhm.
do things the right way. We're trying to grow our channel from the ground up. We're not doing anything crazy to get subscribers and all of that kind of stuff. So, but it's been fun. So, you ready to go ahead and wrap?
Yeah,
Appreciate everybody joining, and we
appreciate
definitely hope you
everything.
spread the word about our channel. Shout out to cousin Monica. We
Oh yeah,
we
Super
talked
Monica.
about Collins Camp on a couple of shows that he did for special needs kids and bringing, some
Clayton's Color Crew.
Clay's Color Crew, and then bringing the some awareness to the autism spectrum, and we need that more. It's not a whole lot of people that's shining a light on that. So
Yeah,
appreciate you guys, and again, salute to the camp. It was just
awesome.
outstanding,
Yeah,
and
that was
yeah, just everything was just perfect. The
state of the art. It was just,
Yeah, the volunteers, the stadium, the signage, all of the goodie bags, and I know what goes into that. I've done events like that, and you're a nervous wreck until you see. And I had a conversation with Monica here at the house that we call it a Hail Mary when you
hmm
do an event like that. And so I know, Monica, you probably felt like it was a Hail Mary, but it always ends up great and terrific
hmm
job.
yeah, Monica, you got to go check out that video. That video got a lot of views. The video that I did where I was talking about you, I just like you could go on the YouTube and see it. It got a
Mm.
lot of views. It got like 1,500 views.
And we
And
are gonna hook up with Monica before the season starts.
oh yeah, and probably during the season too. So y'all gonna get a dose of Monica, Super Monica is what I'm calling her. So y'all gonna get to know Monica, so we can bring some awareness to the Clayton Colors crew and how we how we
Mm.
putting in work in the community.
Autism spectrum.
Yeah, and then Colin is gonna show out for show. He changed his number, so we gonna be covering University of Texas football this year too, a lot more than we did last year. We covered it because we watched every single game, every minute of every single game, but we're gonna cover it this year a lot more than we did last year. Y'all gonna be getting that kind of content from us as well. But and then also everybody keep the Central Texas in your prayers, because that
Mm,
is devastation right there, and no one expects to go to sleep one day and then wake up the next day and your whole life is in shambles. Your loved
mm,
ones are lost, and that is just tough for everyone involved. So please send prayers up for that. And like I said, you can just Google Central Texas tragedy, and I'm sure they have all kind of places where you can donate. The Cowboys sent $500,000. I
mm.
just read that. So um, so keep them in your prayers, please.
Yeah, I'm sure my chapter we're gonna probably be looking at what we can do when we have our next meeting. So I have hopefully have something to report back on that with my Kappa Alpha Psi chapter. Shout out to all the noobs. All right, man. Well, we're gonna go ahead and wrap Sunday night, and
Yeah, man.
appreciate you guys joining.
Appreciate everybody joining, and y'all make sure y'all like, comment, and subscribe. Can y'all please make sure y'all like the video? We got to get our likes up. So y'all please make sure y'all like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see y'all on the next one.
Okay,
Peace.
appreciate it.